Chael Sonnen is a mixed martial arts analyst, American submission grappling promoter, and retired mixed martial artist. He has called for a fight between former UFC middleweight champion Robert Whittaker, aged 32, and current UFC middleweight champion Alex Pereira, aged 35. Also, what did former UFC flyweight and bantamweight champion Henry Cejudo say about a possible fight between Robert Whittaker and Alex Pereira? Keep watching for details. What did Jared Cannonier say about Alex Pereira's victory over Israel Adesanya? Jared Cannonier is not one of those who were shocked by where and on whom the UFC middleweight title ended after a wild 2022 season. On the MMA Hour, Cannonier said he was not surprised. He said that some fights can end in this manner. One moment you may be in the lead, and the next you may be fending off some of the greatest shots thrown your way. That's how things work. Although it was bad for Israel Adesanya, it is just how fighting works. Former UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya's nearly 4-year reign at the top ended in November at UFC 281, where he was defeated by Alex Pereira through a last-second knockout. In their multi-sport series, which dates back to their kickboxing days, Adesanya had already fallen twice to Pereira. The stunning outcome gave Pereira a definite 3-0 advantage. The outcome immediately caused chaos in the 185-pound division of the UFC, much like when a longtime champion falls. Most top middleweight contenders had previously been defeated by Adesanya, who also defeated Cannonier by a lopsided unanimous decision at UFC 276. Therefore, even though Cannonier, 38, wasn't hoping for a surprise, he is aware of the wider picture of what Adesanya's defeat means for his own hopes of winning the title. Cannonier said he wouldn't say it was good for him. He said that he was not content or anything of the sort. He didn't react to it emotionally at all. It was more rational than anything else, Cannonier claimed, and in his opinion, rather than increasing interest in Israel as a whole, it increases interest in the division. He said that it therefore benefits the rest of them. Instead of trying to get back up to a rematch, which he believes is harder to do in this sport, they all have a better chance of competing for the crown. He didn't like that Israel lost, though. He said that he wasn't holding onto my crystals in the hope that Israel would lose this battle or anything similar. So, no, he has never wished anyone harm. Most likely, the fourth fight between Pereira and Adesanya, who will meet for the second time in MMA, will be the next step for the UFC middleweight division. Although no date has been set for the bout, Adesanya is currently the betting favorite to win it and reclaim his belt on many sports books. For his part, Cannonier wouldn't be shocked by any outcome. Anyone may prevail in a fight, according to Cannonier. He then stated that everyone who trains, especially at this level, the top level of sport, can succeed. Paulo Costa disclosed negotiations with UFC before the Robert Whittaker fight was formally canceled. Paulo Costa claims that the UFC once presented him with a 4-fight deal worth a total of $500,000 that would guarantee a matchup with Robert Whittaker at UFC 284. Costa preferred the amount, but not the number of bouts. He responded by saying no, which caused a standoff that led to the cancellation of the already scheduled fight and his future in the UFC. On Wednesday's episode of the MMA Hour, Costa said he wanted new terms to fight Whittaker. He said he won't fight for the same amount of money and that it was going to be a major event in Australia. He said there would be Australians present, which would be a terrific battle. In such a case, $70,000 is insufficient. He told them to just raise it a little bit, but they refused. Costa claimed that UFC President Dana White's attorney and Chief Business Officer Hunter Campbell said they needed to make a new 6-fight deal. He responded with no, saying that he was not going to talk about 6 more battles. He stated that he is only talking about the fight with Whittaker and not 6 more, saying that their offer doesn't make sense to him. Considering the figures he supplied Costa, he said he was not looking for 6 additional bouts. It was illogical, in his opinion. He stated that he was referring to only 1 fight, not 6. He then stated that he made this mistake in the past in 2017, 5 years ago. Cejudo, and he is still paying for it. Costa claims that he only agreed in principle to take on Whittaker in the pay-per-view fight on February 12th in Perth. He said the fight was never held because they hadn't agreed to terms that he considered reasonable. This includes the $70,000 to win and $70,000 to show that was promised by his prior contract. Despite his objections, the UFC ultimately announced the match, placing public pressure on him to sign. He stated it had happened before, so such a move wasn't unexpected. He just made a record correction. Costa remarked that he came in and spoke the truth, saying it was a fake and not happening. Costa claimed that these strategies were generally used in hardball negotiations, which are disadvantageous to fighters, particularly Brazilian fighters. When fresh contract offers come in, he feels Brazilian boxers' pride frequently causes them harm and keeps them in undervalued, long-term contracts. Costa stated that he supposes they simply provide very low numbers for Brazilians. Perhaps they believe that they don't need actual money because Brazilian fighters are from the bush and their currency is roughly 5 times less valuable than dollars. A request for comment from the UFC was not immediately complied with. Costa eventually ran out of patience. He parted with Waleed Ismail, his longtime manager, and began resisting the UFC's demands. No small amount of drama outside the cage, which included a disastrous weight mishap with Marvin Vettori, may have undermined his cause. He stood his ground regardless. Paulo Costa stated that at some point he has to say no. He will not do it. He stated that as Brazilians, they just want to fight. They don't care too much. Whenever they are told to fight, they just say yes. No matter the rank of the opponent, they will agree to fight for the same money. Costa stated that they have been doing it for a while, but it doesn't benefit the athletes' businesses. He said it is terrible for the fighters' business. As a result, you cannot just affirm any deal. Someone once said, if you are brilliant at something, don't do it for free or for small money. He said he had done it a lot in the past, and that was enough. According to Costa, getting the fight would be extremely easy if the promotion were more flexible, but since it isn't, he is trapped in limbo until the end of his contract. Costa might have been forced to sit out indefinitely as the organization extended his contract for turning down opponents if it weren't for the current antitrust lawsuit against the UFC. However, there was a time limit on the promotion to keep him under the contract due to a sunset clause. He anticipates becoming a free agent in March 2023. Due to how close it is to the event, UFC 284 is currently off the table, according to Costa. He is open to a bout with Whittaker or another opponent in the match though, if the organization is willing to give him the necessary numbers. It seems reasonable to sign a contract for $50,000 to fight Whittaker and no one else. He will participate if there is a healthy bump. Chael Sonnen wants Robert Whittaker to face Alex Pereira for the title. Chael Sonnen has some intriguing ideas regarding the middleweight class of the UFC. The original prediction for UFC 284 was that former 185-pound champion Robert Whittaker would face Paulo Costa. Costa has stated he did not formally sign anything to fight Whittaker in February, and it appears like he is in the middle of a contract battle with the UFC. As a result, Sonnen says that Whittaker should be considered to have won the battle, as he is no longer up against anyone. After that, Sonnen thinks Whittaker should be given the go-ahead to fight Alex Pereira, the newly crowned middleweight king, in the following bout. Sonnen predicts that the UFC will ultimately take a different course in light of this. Pereira and Israel Adesanya will likely immediately rematch. At UFC 281 in November, Pereira defeated Adesanya to claim the middleweight championship. It was their third encounter in a setting related to combat sports. After such a successful run at middleweight for Adesanya, it would be difficult to refuse him a rematch immediately. Of course, Sonnen thinks the Reaper would actually be the betting favorite if Whittaker ever had the opportunity to face Pereira inside the octagon. What did Henry Cejudo have to say about a fight between Robert Whittaker and Alex Pereira? Recently, Henry Cejudo shared his thoughts on a possible matchup between Robert Whittaker and UFC middleweight champion Alex Pereira. Cejudo seems to support a middleweight title fight between current champion Alex Pereira and and former champion Robert Whittaker in the most recent edition of Fight Feedback. According to Triple C, the Reaper is a good opponent for the Brazilian because of Whittaker's propensity for securing takedowns. According to the former UFC double champion, Whittaker's capacity to maintain discipline will play a significant role in determining how well he performs against the current middleweight champion. In his analysis of the possible contest, Cejudo stated that since Alex Pereira is the champion, Robert Whittaker would have a very excellent matchup against him. He then stated that this is because he possesses those takedowns, and if Israel was successful in obtaining takedowns against Alex Pereira, it follows that Robert Whittaker will also be able to utilize those takedowns. Cejudo then stated that the techniques are the only thing that makes him nervous. He wondered if Robert Whittaker would be able to maintain his discipline in the face of Alex Pereira, because if he does, Cejudo thinks Robert Whittaker will likely win back the belt and engage in the third battle with Izzy. We have come to the end of this video. Do you agree with Henry Cejudo's take on a fight between Whittaker and Pereira? Who do you think would win if Robert Whittaker and Alex Pereira fought? Let us know in the comment section. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.